New York, the world seemed to stop spinning for a moment when a young South Korean with meaningful eyes and an unexpected smile uttered words that left the entire Tonight Show studio speechless. And even legendary host Jimmy Fallon couldn't hide his approval. That night, screens around the world showed something far beyond mere entertainment. It's not just about a K-pop artist returning to the screen after a long hiatus due to military service. It's not just about a comeback or about music. It is about the inner voice of a human named Jungkook, and the sentence he utters becomes an unexpected emotional outburst that shakes the emotions of millions of viewers, fans, netizens. And even pop culture observers are now busy interpreting one simple but emotionally charged sentence that came out of Jungkook's lips that night. The words that made Jimmy Fallon freeze in his chair and make the room usually filled with laughter actually turned into an eerie silence. No one expected that the idol with the nickname Golden Magne would take off his star mask and show his innermost side, live, in front of millions of eyes watching through glass screens and streaming. "I don't belong to anyone now. I just want to be honest for the first time." That's it. But the sentence resonated like an explosion of an emotional bomb. Not just ordinary honesty. The sentence feels like the culmination of a long-held tension. Since his journey in BTS, since becoming the idol of an entire generation, since becoming the symbol of global K-pop success, Jungkook has never really been given any breathing room as an ordinary human being. And that night, he blew it all up. Jimmy Fallon, with a barely believable expression, could only gawk and whisper, "Wow, that's unexpected." And to make it all the more shocking, it wasn't just Jimmy Fallon who was transfixed. The production crew, the audience in the studio, to the army, the name for BTS fans, admitted to crying at the honest confession from the idol who is usually full of charisma and kink. The camera captured Fallon's expression looking like he didn't know what to answer. Even for a figure of the caliber of Jimmy Fallon, who has already faced hundreds of world celebrities, the moment has been one of the most shaking throughout his career. After the segment aired, social media exploded. The hashtags #Jungkook Confession, #FallonFrozen, and #WeAreHereForYouJK immediately topped the global trending topics in a matter of minutes. Netizens from various countries competed to translate, interpret, and review the hidden intentions behind Jungkook's words. Many speculated that the confession hinted at something deeper than just mental exhaustion. Some referred to it as a form of rejection of the entertainment industry system that imprisons the identity of the artist. Others thought it was a sign that Jungkook was preparing for a big decision, a controversial move that could change the course of his career forever. One Korean pop culture analyst, Kim Seon-ha, called the moment a turning point for Jungkook. All this time, the public has known her as a perfect idol, flawless, who always appeared with a smile and energy. But that night, he gave up the role. It's not Jungkook from BTS. He is Jungkook, a human struggling with his reality. And that recognition could be the beginning of the end for Jungkook's image that has been shaped by the industry. Not a few respond to this with a feeling of anxiety. Some hardcore fans even panicked. Does this mean Jungkook is leaving BTS? Is he rebelling against HYB? Is this some kind of innuendo or code to the internal pressure that he is experiencing? All these questions are now spinning wildly in the minds of the public. Interestingly, Fallon tried to resume the interview after the commercial break, but the atmosphere had already changed dramatically. Jungkook, who seemed relaxed at first, began to look more reserved, as if he realized that he had gone too far or was being too honest. But one thing that could not be erased was the look in his eyes. Eyes that night seemed to imply fatigue, constancy, and perhaps a long-buried wound. It may seem simple, but when said by someone in Jungkook's class, it becomes a statement that shakes up the system, Variety entertainment journalist Andrew Miller said in a statement. It was a subtle form of resistance, a fight from within. He may not be screaming or angry, but he conveys his discomfort and sense of isolation as a global celebrity. Did Jungkook realize the impact of his words? The answer is obvious, yes. And that is precisely what makes everything more stressful. The speech was not just an emotional outburst, but like a well-thought-out personal declaration. And if we delve deeper, the moment does not appear out of nowhere. Traces of Jungkook's anxiety have begun to be felt since the last few months. From his statements that imply more introspection, from social media posts that feel more personal and dark, to his absence from various promotional activities even though he is still contractually bound to the agency. There was also speculation that his remarks on Fallon's show were a response to pressure from HYB's inner circle, especially after skewed issues regarding management conflicts and creative control over BTS members surfaced publicly. An anonymous source close to the agency said Jungkook is experiencing internal friction and is considering taking a more independent path after his contract expires. HYB's own party has not yet given an official statement regarding this incident, but their silence has made rumors even wilder. In a world that is so dependent on narrative and image, obscurity will only cloud the atmosphere. And Jungkook, that night, as if throwing a smoke bomb into the middle of the arena, left many questions unanswered, but with a very clear message: he is fighting, and the world should know. What will happen next? Will Jungkook release a clarification? Will Fallon bring that moment back up on the next show? Or will all parties choose to remain silent and let the public guess for themselves? To be sure, it's not just about one sentence. It's about how one human being who has been placed on the altar of fame has finally chosen to speak as himself. And when he did, the world fell silent. Jimmy Fallon, who was usually adept at controlling the atmosphere, was not even able to hide his surprise. In the viral video clip, he is seen only sculpting for a moment before finally saying softly that was honest. No joke. No laughter. There was no attempt to lighten the mood. Because everyone knows what just happened is not a gimmick, not part of the script, nor is it just a drama. It was the truth, which had probably been locked up in Jungkook's chest for a long time. And perhaps it is also a moment that will be remembered for all time. A moment in which the idol finally shows that behind all the shine of stage lights and glamour, there is a human being who is trying to find meaning. Don't leave just yet, because this is just the beginning. There are still more than 9,000 words of story that will completely peel all the layers behind this event. From Jungkook's initial appearance on The Tonight Show, his mysterious expression before the interview, the responses of the world's fans and musicians, to the most likely big decisions that will shock the entire K-pop world. The sequel will reveal more secrets, and you won't be prepared for what you'll read next. That night, the entertainment world was not just stunned, it was torn apart. Within hours of The Tonight Show segment being published, fans, critics, celebrities, and pop culture journalists began to react. What is surprising is not only the content of Jungkook's statement, but also the courage and timing he chose to deliver it. He could have spoken during an exclusive interview with the Korean media. He chose to speak in America, at one of the most prestigious events in the world. It's not just courage. It was a maneuver, Sarah Kim, editor of Seoul Beats, said in a serious tone in a live broadcast on her YouTube channel that was watched by more than 2 million people that night. What do you mean by, "I belong to no one"? Netizens unpacked interview archives, fan meet footage, and even body language analysis to look for hidden clues. Some say Jungkook was referring to his post-military freedom. Something more extreme is that he is declaring liberation from the shackles of a big agency label that has designed his life since he was a teenager.